It happened. It happened. It happened. It happened. It happened. I need to calm down, or else I'll never be able to speak ever again. I will not be able to sleep for the next, I don't even know how long, this episode. I guess episodes. Can we please skip, or at least save the Three Armies for later? I'll just talk about it real quick. Nice dynamics between the three of the army leaders. Nice dynamics between Anne and Sasha. I love it. It's a cool episode, but it's not so much plot. It was good. Good messages. You know, Anne went calamity on everybody. That was good to see. Love it. But we need to talk about the beginning of the end. I can't not talk about the beginning of the end. If I don't talk about the beginning of the end, I'm gonna explode. I need to right now. Okay. Calm down. Marcy. She deserves a hug. I just want to sit her down at a table and give her applesauce and tell her everything's gonna be okay. Okay, well, first off, I could check this off my bingo sheet. The Calamity Trio flashback. I knew it was gonna happen. Oh my goodness. It's so sweet. Marcy's so sweet. She's so nice. Okay, so at the beginning, you know, they're watching basically bootleg Lord of the Rings, and Marcy's like, oh, this is so cool, you guys. Don't you just love this? And they just don't care. I'm sure a million people can relate to this, but I relate to this so hard, especially when Sasha has her phone out. Oh, that's the worst, dude. That is the worst. So many times I've been like, oh, guys, watch this thing. And they're both on their phones, and they're like, oh, wow. And I'm just sitting there like, come on, watch the freaking thing. It's just because this happens in friendships where it's like one person will like give interest to another one's interest, and the other one won't really, they'll just go like halfway. Like Anne and Sasha here are just going halfway. And it's like, it's not like Marcy dislikes their company, and like, especially when they start pillow fighting, it's so sweet because it's like, oh, we're having fun now, but it's like the second they go to sleep, it's like they left Marcy alone and neglected, and they didn't think about what she wanted, and they only thought about what they wanted. It's like, oh, it's so good. This is a thing that happens in friendships, and I like how we get to see more of this. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Okay, and when they fall asleep, she's like, again? You guys fell asleep again? And sure, it's a 3-hour movie, whatever, but like, oh... She takes off her little cloak and oh, Marcy's so sweet. She's so nice. And then she stays up and watches the movie because she loves it. Oh, my heart is melting. It's so sweet. It's so sweet. So then, similarly to the Lord of the Rings, they formulate the plan, you know, that they came up with in the Three Armies. So it's like Aragorn's army from Lord of the Rings goes and attacks the forces of Sauron or whatever. It's been a while since I've seen Lord of the Rings. Good movies, good books too. And then Frodo and Sam, you know, they go around to go destroy the ring. And it's the same case here where we have a small elite team go after the music box. And like, you know, the freaking frogs, newts, and toads, they give a head-on assault. And I was like, okay, this makes sense, you know, pretty easy to understand strategy. And I knew the second I was like, oh, Anne and Sasha and the rest are going up to meet, are going to get the Calamity Box. 100% we're getting Darcy. 100% we're getting Darcy. We got Darcy and we'll get there. So this is really cool. And, you know, they start flying off. And then I love this scene where Sasha's like, hey, Grime, listen, I need a moment with Anne. We got to talk about Marcy. And it's like, oh, well, play my playlist. And she's like, oh, I'm so proud of you, Grime. That was just a funny moment. I love that. But the moment, I love this. This sort of, we've been waiting for this, right? We've been waiting for this when they finally, you know, talk about Marcy. And I knew that a lot of people were waiting for this because they were saving it for the finale. You know, it makes sense to put it in the finale. Obviously, it doesn't make sense to put it in earlier, but I think, like, thematically and story-wise, it just fits better to be put this scene in the finale. And I absolutely love it because Sasha has her doubts. And I almost felt a bit of hypocrisy from Sasha. I feel like I need to see this episode again because I've only seen it once, so I'm just kind of rambling because I want to get this video out as soon as possible. And I'm gonna obviously make a follow-up video, but like, oh, I love this scene where they're on Domino 2, and like, I just love when Sasha, they're like, oh, they're talking about the movie, and Anne's like, I like how Anne is the one to bring it up, where Anne knows. It shows how much Anne has grown and is willing to forgive Marcy, and I think it's so sweet. But it's just, I love how it's just like we neglected her needs, we neglected her interests because she's like into these video games, and they're like, oh, whatever. And it obviously just hurts your heart to see, but it's like, oh, this did happen. It was a result. And then when Marcy made this decision, it's like she's forcing the fate, or she's forcing her interests onto Anne and Sasha because there's not gonna listen any other way. She knew that if she said, hey, let's go to this place, they wouldn't go. They would never go. Of course they wouldn't. They probably wouldn't even give her the time of day. And it's, she's like the one that was like, I don't know, not the third wheel, but it almost feels like Anne and Sasha, mostly Sasha, just dictates the rules. And then again, it's not as if they don't have fun together. It's this whole toxic friendship thing where it's like you like these people, but things about them you just really can't stand, or you really wish they would change, or you'd wish they'd listen to you. And oh, I love Marcy, dude. She's such a good character. I just love how willing they are to save the friendship. Oh, it's so good. Okay, and then we have Andrias. You know, he watches the armies come in. I love Andrias is pretty good in this episode. He kind of is on the sides of this episode, but oh my gosh, when he like jumps down. Okay, we'll get to it though. So we start, and the invasion happens, and Croker makes a little speech, and they charge on in, and it looks super epic. And then Andrias is like drinking his, I don't know, freaking raspberry tea or whatever. And the other team, they get up and they go into the castle, and you know, we're all waiting for it, you know, we're all waiting for it. They continue talking about Marcy. They have another really good scene between Anne and Sasha here about like forgiveness, and one of the lines I loved, it's not about what she did, it's why she did it. And I was like, that is so good. That is such a good line. That is like such a good line for Anne specifically as a character, where it shows that her growth, where it's like, you know, she's come to an understanding of not to just judge people based on their actions, but what the reasons are behind said actions. And I was like, that is so good. That is so good. This scene is just so good. Oh my gosh. So they talk about forgiveness, how it's not easy, because Sasha's like, am I just supposed to give her just like that? And Anne's like, no, it's not easy. And then she's like, oh, but even if it's really, really hard, it's worth it. And then she looks at Hot Pop, and I was like, oh, because I compared, I believe, in one of my older videos where I compared Anne and Marcy, or like Anne and Sasha and their betrayal sort of, to Anne and Hot Pop, where it's like, you know, we saw them not get along. I think I was talking about the Anne and Sasha character arc, where I think that their relationship wasn't rushed, where it's like, you know, they get back together and they're friends again. I don't think it was very rushed, as opposed to many people. And I kind of was like talking about the Hot Pop in there too, and I loved how it was like, oh, it's worth it, because now she has Hot Pop again. They're like they're tight again, you know, they're pals. It's so good. They're friends again, and I love that, because like you look at Hot Pop and he looks back at her and he gives a thumbs up, and I'm just like, oh, that's so good. It's like a moment that needs hardly any words. It's just, you look at Hot Pop, gives a thumbs up, and it's like, you know what that it means. Like, oh, that's so good. And then it's followed up by another freaking emotional moment where it's like, oh, just look at what you and I have now. And it's just, oh, and Sasha starts crying, and it's just like, it really shows how Sasha has changed too. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Oh my goodness. I really love Sasha in this episode because, as I mentioned several times before, she's finished her character arc, and seeing the result and the fruition of said character arc is so cool. And obviously she still has her flaws, and, you know, Anne is being a really, really good influence on Sasha. I love this, by the way. I love how the dynamic has sort of flipped in a way, or at least sort of become more balanced, where, you know, Sasha was always influencing Anne, and now we see Sasha is like, hey, these are my thoughts. And then Anne's like, hold on now, Sash. Think about this. And it's like, she listens. She's actually listening to Anne, not just saying whatever she wants. And I love that. She recognizes, she understands through Anne's words that like there is meaning to this friendship and forgiveness. And it's like, oh, this is so good. This is the stuff we want to see. And I can't believe we're getting nearly an hour of this next week. I can't believe it, dude. It's so good. So we go on through the episode, and we finally see that Olivia and Yunan are possessed by the colors. You know, it just kind of makes sense. And they're in like perfect sync with each other, which is cool. And to counter that, they have, which came from the promo, the little DDR game, which I thought was pretty cool. And, you know, they counter Olivia and Yunan by using like that dance. It's so cool, dude. I loved that dance. The animation of it was so cool. Oh, that dance. I could make a whole video about that freaking dance. That was awesome, dude. I love it. All I can say is I love it for now, but we'll move on. I think it was actually a little before. Yeah, the armies are attacking. I like how the Newt from, what was it, the episode with like the royal credit card where Sprig is spending a bunch of money. That Newt is there too, and she's fighting against Andrias, which I think is hilarious. Like, so she's back. You know, I like how I was talking about how everyone is here, right? We're gonna get like a ton of different characters having the little spotlight moments. And I think that's just gonna happen. Like, we saw Apothecary Gary putting his like goo on top of the worm and overriding the collar, which I thought was really interesting. So, you know, we got a cool Gary scene. I still think Gary's gonna somehow control Darcy. And oh, it's just so good. And then the Mossman, dude, the Mossman comes back in front of Wally. When I first saw the freaking vines, I was like, what the heck? Who has that power? And then the Mossman is like, hey. And it's the same, obviously the same Mossman that Leaf ran away on. And then Wally's like, I told you all! And Croker's like, wow, that's really weird, okay. I love it, dude. It's just like, you didn't need to put that in there, but you did. It's another season 1 callback within like 20 seconds. And like, oh, if you just like, if you skip the filler in Amphibia, this means nothing. But the fact that, I say filler, and I think most episodes of Amphibia aren't really filler, but like, I just love seeing this. I just love seeing this episode. It's so good. And then when Andrias comes down, he jumps down, dude. He freaking, whoa, jumps all the way down. And then he's like, ooh, don't let me steal the show. And the thing he does with the sword where he like rolls it down his shoulders, he knows that none of them stand a match for him. The only one who can go toe to toe with Andrias is Anne, or maybe Calamity Sasha, or whatever. But she hasn't got her Calamity powers yet. That's gonna happen in All In. We still haven't seen Calamity Sasha. I really thought we were gonna get Calamity Sasha in this episode. I really did, but we didn't. They're holding off on it for now. They're just gonna make it a super epic moment. But oh gosh, when Andrias does that little freaking twirl, you know, he's just playing with them. He's having fun with it. He's playing with them, dude. Oh my gosh, Andrias' episode it's so good. It's so perfect, because it's like, you see the villainous intent, but he's being his Andrias-y self, where he's like, I'm just gonna do my own thing, I'm gonna murder these people the way I want, and then you see him fight against the whole army! The whole army, dude! I was like, how the heck? He's so strong! It makes sense, though, because, like, who on Earth can take on Andrias besides Anne? Like, Grime and Sasha, like, maybe? But that's only because of, like, Barrel's Warhammer, and Sasha, I don't know. They lost, too. They still just lost. They held him off for, like, a couple seconds. That's all they were able to do. And True Colors, I'm talking about, in True Colors. Andrias is literally just like so powerful, dude. No one else stands a chance. And I thought that was so cool. So anyway, we get back, they do the epic dance, which has like some really nice fluid animation. And then, you know, they rescue Olivia and Yunan, so now Olivia and Yunan are on their side. And this is the best part of the episode. Okay, I say best part, the entire episode's good, but I'm freaking out about this part here, and you know what's coming. Olivia and Yunan warn Sasha and Anne that Marcy has changed. And like, no, we've changed too. But they're like, no, not in that way. Not in that way. And they go to grab the Calamity Box, only for it to be an illusion. And finally, we see Darcy. Oh my gosh. Darcy in this episode. Oh, it's so good. Can we talk about the room? The room with the eyes and the powers, the machine tentacle things? Like, can we talk about that? What happened to the throne room? Darcy took it over. Darcy isn't just in the helmet. Darcy is everywhere. The cable, she's linked to the cable. She has all these powers inside. I think like maybe the cable, I don't know what the point of the cable is, if it's for her offense or if, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know if like how it really works with the whole cable. But anyway, she's connected to the entire room. So like Darcy, while her body is, you know, in Marcy, she has the entire room under her control. There's no way you can't even get any footing. Darcy has eyes everywhere. The room, it's so good. Darcy steals the show as any villain should, and lets everybody know that she is not a force to be reckoned with. I saw people saying, Darcy's not threatening enough. I don't know about this. What are you talking about? Look at she controls the entire scenario instantly. Obviously, it was a trap because she knew it was going to happen. You know, the movie and all that. She has Marcy's memories, so she has a big advantage into knowing what Anne and Sasha or any of the other, you know, amphibians are going to do. Because Marcy knew them, so that means by extension, Darcy knows them and knows what they're going to want to do. Oh, it's so good. Darcy just steals the show. Oh, and the poses, dude. I could talk about... Dude, every frame I could talk about for like hours, where she does the bow, she taps her head, it's just like, oh my gosh, and it's like, oh, it's so good. And I love this shot. This shot is so freaking cool. The eye in the back, it illuminates the rest of the room and the eyeballs surrounding them, and our hero's trap and Sasha. It's just like, oh, I was waiting for this. This is it. This is the beginning of the end that I was waiting for, and it's so good. Oh, and I love this scene where Darcy's taunting them about their own friendship. It's like she's using their own doubts against them, and it's like, oh, I doubt you guys were ever friends, you know? It's like, oh my gosh, because Darcy knows everything about them. That's what's so interesting about this villain. Thinking about, like, you know how most villains won't know every single thing that heroes have been through. Like, for example, in a bunch of, like, JRPGs or whatever, it's like the final boss of God is like, oh, you're cringe, you're just a bunch of worms, because that's what gods say. And then the heroes are like, oh, you don't know what we've been through. You don't know what the power of friendship is like. And then Darcy does? I mean, Darcy doesn't believe in it because she doesn't think their friendship is true. But it's like, Darcy knows everything that they've been through, and that's so cool. That's such a cool villain idea. And can we talk about the famous Anne? Oh, that's so good. Darcy taunting Anne. I love when Darcy starts taunting Anne, calling her like dumber than a bag of rocks, the rebellion's last hope, and then she like slithers? I don't know. She slithers at everybody and is like, hey everybody, here's your rebellion. I captured them all easily. And she reveals herself to the world. She reveals herself to the world of Amphibia. Everyone knows who the target is. I imagine even some of the people down there are like, oh, that's Marcy. That's Marcy. And then Andrias freaking swooshes all the way back up. Like, I don't know how he does it. He's just Andrias. He just does that. And he comes all the way back up. And I just, oh my gosh, it's so good. I'm sorry. I know I need to be more organized, but there's so many cool shots. Like the shot of Darcy walking back into the castle with everybody captured. And like they're all giving her that freaking stink eye. And Angie's like, okay, what do we do next? It's so good, dude. Oh my gosh. The shots. And I love the shots when you can tell where Darcy is thinking, where she's not making eye contact anywhere. She's kind of just like looking toward the ground. Because like she doesn't need, oh, it's so good. It's because it's the core. It's just, she's just thinking. Whenever she doesn't need to look at something, she's just like, it's so good. It feels so awkward. She's standing so awkwardly because it's like, this core isn't used to having a body. This isn't something that is natural for them. So when they're thinking, they're just like, well, we don't need to use the rest of our body. Let's just stand here weirdly. And I love that. I think that's so cool. Oh, it's so good. And then we get the cool sort of part where Anne, you know, kind of outsmarts Darcy, where she's like, they don't know what the stones are either. And I thought this was so cool because like that just makes sense. You know, they didn't even know what the stones were back then. In the Mother Own Prophecy, they're just like, oh, they believe the stones to be their birthright, and they're gonna use it to conquest other freaking worlds. But they take that power for granted. They're just like, well, we don't know how it works. We don't know the specifics of it, but we know we can use them. I just think that's so cool because Mother Ohm literally said that. She's like, well, none of us know what they are. We just know that they serve a higher purpose. And I thought that was so cool because it shows how, I don't want to say vulnerable, but it shows a really, really interesting sort of, not weak point, but really, really interesting thing for the core. You know, we see this core as like this thing that knows everything. You know, it knows everything. It knew exactly what Anne and Sasha were going to do, exactly how to trap them, exactly how to, you know, make them start self-doubting themselves by talking about Marcy. You know, the core is setting up so much. It even like shows, it demoralizes everybody by showing, you know, hey, I captured your leaders. And obviously they start retreating, and it's like Darcy took control of the scenario like within a minute. Within a minute of screen time, Darcy's like, haha, I control this entire scenario now, and it's so good. And then we see, it's like, oh, hold on. You don't know everything, do you freaking core? And I love, I was just talking about how the core, like whenever it doesn't need its body, it starts thinking. When it turns off all the eyes, I just imagine it being like a computer where it's just like instantly going like, search through every single file in our database at all. Just like every single one. And they find nothing because they don't know. Of course they don't know. They're still people. The core is still, even though it's like many intelligent people, it's still people. They're not perfect. They don't know everything. They can't know what the stones were placed here for. They don't know what the true thing of the stones are. And I don't even know if the people, like that, what was her name? I forget her name. The one with like the one hand and the person who helped Anne charge the stone, the heart stone or whatever. Like, oh, does she know everything about the stones? Maybe it's like they were put here because they knew about the stones? I don't know. But clearly, Darcy doesn't know. And I think that's so cool because Anne takes advantage of that and is like, well, if you try and kill me or dissect me, or I guess not dissect, but if you try and kill me, you don't know what might happen to the box. What if you kill me and the powers are gone for good? And then it's just like, after Darcy thinks, she's like, well, I just think like the best moment of this is when the core is like, shut up, Andrias, after Andrias is like, oh, you don't think the core knows, bro? Come on, you don't think the core knows? It's like Andrias just believes in the core, that the core would know everything. And I just love, oh, I love it, dude. It's like, it shows such a moment of weakness. Like, the core can get emotional, too. That was, like, pure emotion of the core. I mean, obviously, we've seen it in the core and the king when Darcy's acting silly. But it's like, shut up, Andrias. I love it, dude. Oh, it's so cool. It's so freaking good. And then, the final scene where Darcy's like, okay, well, we're gonna have to dissect Anne alive, and she leaves Anne right near, like, the throne, and I think that's so cool, and she's like, get the rest fitted for collars, and like, they walk away, and then they take the portal into Earth, and we see everyone freak out, and it's just, boom, to be continued, and that's the end. It's the perfect setup to the beginning of the end of Amphibia, and I love it. And it makes you think, like, who's gonna rescue Anne? You know, we've seen from the poster, spoilers if you haven't seen it, Anne's parents are gonna come. We see, like, the herons and the giant robot. Those are 3 new things that we really see. I think what's gonna happen is the frogs, newts, toads, whatever, I guess they're on the ground, so I don't know if they're still stuck in Amphibia. I don't really know what's gonna happen to them. There's still a lot of questions we don't know. But I'm wondering if, like, maybe they'll ask, like, Anne's parents for help, and Anne's parents will help fight, or maybe help rescue Anne. I don't know. There's so much. There's so much. Oh, I need to talk about this in, like, a follow-up video. I just need to get my initial thoughts out here because, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. I can't, dude. Darcy is so cool. Darcy is so freaking cool. I really want to know what Darcy's power is outside of this room, because inside this room, no one can challenge Darcy. This is Darcy's territory. No one can beat her in this room, unless you have, like, I don't know, mega calamity power. Maybe that's the only thing. I was so surprised. I was really thinking in this episode that Anne would unlock Sasha's calamity powers somehow. I really thought that was going to happen, but no, they're saving it for All In, which just makes sense. And, oh, I can't wait. It's happening from a week from now, dude. I can't. A week. 1 week until we get this, this freaking climax. I just love this so much. And the ending, when it starts playing Marcy's theme, and it just shows her with her friends, and she's watching the movie. It's like, oh, tears. I didn't cry this episode. I didn't, thank goodness. But I was very emotional. I was like, oh man. Before this episode came out, I was shaking, like, for 6 hours. I was just, like, shaking in anticipation. It was insane. And I even felt, like, nauseous several times. I was like, oh, I'm gonna puke this episode. I'm so scared. And then when it finally happened, all that felt away. I just started enjoying it. I was like, oh, it's so good. And Marcy, dude, I can't wait to see how Marcy will react when she returns. I really can't wait. I love Darcy, don't get me wrong. I want to see as much Darcy as possible. But I also miss Marcy so much, and I can't wait to see them return. Oh my gosh. I can't. I literally cannot put it into words. I cannot put it into words. I am not smart enough to put how I am feeling into words. I am just so overwhelmed and obsessed. My Darcy brain rot is through the roof. I just can't put it into words how excited I am and how much I love this episode. Yeah, so that'll be it for me. I gotta stop talking, I'll also talk for hours. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna go think about Darcy, because I literally can't. I literally cannot. I can't not think about Darcy. Alright, see ya.